cop was supposed to die that night. Everybody saw him fall. Everybody heard the gunshot. But hours later, the dead cop came back alive. And that single mistake was enough to destroy an entire town run by dirty police officers. For years, Freddy Heflin stood quietly in the background. The half-deaf sheriff nobody respected, nobody feared, and nobody considered a real cop. That's exactly why they liked him. The corrupt officers running Copland needed someone soft, someone blind, someone easy to control. While they buried secrets, protected killers, and turned an entire town into their private kingdom. And Freddy let them. He swallowed the jokes, the disrespect, the humiliation, until one night exposed what was really hiding underneath the badge. Because the second Freddy realized the system was never broken, the villain whispers, "It was designed this way." The quiet sheriff that everybody pushed around starts walking straight toward the most dangerous cops in the state, alone. And by the time they realize, the narrator, darkly, he's no longer protecting them. It's already too late. In a small New Jersey town called Garrison, just across the river from New York City, a quiet, heavy-set man named Freddy Heflin pins his sheriff's badge to his chest every single morning, like it is the most sacred thing he owns. To Freddy, it is, because Freddy has wanted to be a cop his entire life, not a small-town sheriff with a two-deputy station, a real cop, NYPD, the force on the other side of the George Washington Bridge. But a childhood accident robbed him of hearing in one ear, and the NYPD has rejected him 10 years running. 3 forced absent hearings, 10 years of appeals, all denied. So, Freddy settles for Garrison. Now here's what makes this immediately important to understand. Garrison is not a regular town. Back in the 1970s, NYPD officers were legally forbidden from living outside New York City, unless they were transit cops. So a group of officers from the 3-7 precinct worked overtime at subway stations, got themselves reclassified as auxiliary transit cops, and used cheap loans from people they knew to buy land in New Jersey. They built their own private sanctuary, all blue, all insulated, all protected. And at the center of it all stood Ray Donlin. Ray is charming, powerful, respected in every room he enters. He runs the 3-7 precinct in New York by day, but Garrison is his real kingdom. He's the man who handed Freddy this sheriff's job. He's the reason every house on every quiet street is filled with NYPD officers, their wives, their children, and their secrets. Freddy looks up to Ray like a father. That is the first mistake. One night, a young cop named Murray Babbage, everyone calls him Superboy, is driving home drunk from a bachelor party across the river. He chases 2 black teenagers in a car, runs them off the road, and shoots them both. 6 shots, 2 dead kids. Now here's where things get terrifying. Within minutes of those shots, the officers on the scene, led by Ray, are already building the cover story. A gun appears from somewhere underneath a floor mat. One officer screams it was there the whole time. Another screams back that it wasn't. The scene turns into controlled chaos on the bridge, everyone performing their assigned roles, while a young man named Murray stands in the middle of it all, shaking. "I saw a gun. I heard a shot." But there was no gun. Murray knows it. Some of the men around him know it. And that's when it becomes a problem. As internal affairs begin circling and the media gets a hold of the story, Murray panics on the George Washington Bridge. His own people start closing in. The situation is turning irreversible. And then he jumps, or so everyone thinks. The news broadcasts it within hours. Officer Murray Superboy Babbage, dead. Apparent suicide. Harbor Patrol searches the Hudson River for days. They find one shoe, but the body never surfaces. And something about that detail sits in Freddy's chest like a stone he can't cough out.
How long you been a sheriff? 10 years. That's great.
Enter Lieutenant Mo Tilden from Internal Affairs. Mo walks into Garrison carrying photographs and a quiet fury he barely contains. He sits across from Freddy in the cramped sheriff's office and lays the truth out with the patience of a man who has been assembling this puzzle for years. Every house in Garrison, he says, was financed by one of two mob-connected banks. Every officer in this town has financial ties to Toy Torillo, a reputed mob boss who has been funneling drug money through the 3-7 precinct for over a decade. Think about what that means. The mob didn't just befriend these cops, they'd built this town for them, specifically so they could own an entire NYPD precinct. The people sworn to protect New York City turned into a private, loyal army for organized crime. That is what Garrison really is. This is what institutional corruption looks like at its most sophisticated. It never starts with evil men making evil choices. It starts with good men making small ones. A discounted loan here, a closed eye there, a favor quietly returned, until one day they look around and realize they are in so deep they cannot see the surface anymore. Mo looks at Freddy and says it plainly. Babbage isn't dead. Ray got him off that bridge alive before he could talk. Then he offers Freddy a chance. You're on the inside. Help me. Freddy hesitates. That hesitation costs him nearly everything. Freddy goes back to Garrison and starts paying real attention for the first time. Gary Figgis, a fellow officer with burning eyes and a twitching conscience, pulls Freddy aside. Figgis has been close to Ray for years. He knows exactly how the machinery of this town works. He tells Freddy something that makes the whole picture snap into horrible clarity. The mob owns Garrison. Every dirty dollar that ran through the 3-7 flowed straight back to Torillo. Every cop in that town either knew or chose not to know. There is a difference between those two things, but not much of one. Then Figgis's house burns to the ground. His girlfriend Monica is inside. She barely makes it out alive. Was it Ray? Was it punishment for Figgis talking too loudly? No one can prove it, but Freddy knows. The look on Ray's face the next morning tells him everything without saying a word. Freddy has been the quiet, obedient sheriff of a corrupt town for 10 years. He looked the other way. He told himself it wasn't his business. He convinced himself these were good men who just needed a better place to raise their families. He was wrong, and somewhere deep underneath his silence, he always knew. 97 out of 100 people watching this right now will keep scrolling without subscribing. You just watched Freddy, a man who spent a decade begging to be called a real cop, realize that the entire town he protected was built on rot. You felt that. I saw you lean in. Subscribing costs nothing. One tap, that's it. Join the ones who stay when the story gets heavy. Hit subscribe. We're not done yet.
I do, Kasi. I live in a house and in it I shit.
Mo Tilden gets shut down. The mayor suspends the Babbage investigation with a single phone call from the right person, and Internal Affairs is boxed out entirely. Mo packs his files into boxes and tells Freddy with cold, exhausted resignation, "You blew it." Now, Freddy is completely alone. Ray calls Freddy to his house, warm, reasonable, almost fatherly. He speaks to Freddy like a man patiently explaining the rules of a card game to a child. Boys bet everything on everything. Men know their limits. He tells Freddy to go home, guide traffic, sleep, let it all disappear. For one brief moment, it looks like Freddy might. Then Murray Babbage walks through the door of Freddy's station, alive, soaking wet, terrified, hidden in the town for weeks while Ray decided what to do with him. Murray grabs Freddy's arm and says the sentence that destroys the last comfortable lie Freddy had left. Ray tried to kill me. Ray didn't rescue Murray from that bridge to protect him. He rescued him to control him. And the moment Murray became a liability instead of an asset, the plan was always to make him vanish, quietly. Just like Officer Glenn Tunney, who was murdered in his jail cell 2 years earlier when he tried to talk. The pattern snaps into place. This was never about good cops escaping a bad city. It was about power, and anyone who threatened that power got erased. Tunney, Babbage, and soon Freddy himself, if he keeps asking the wrong questions. Freddy goes back to Mo Tilden one final time. He lays it all on the table. Murray is alive. Ray tried to kill him. Here is your witness. Mo barely looks up from the table. The case is closed. Hands are tied. Freddy stares at him. I'm asking you for help. Mo leans forward with a look that could strip paint. I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it. No backup, no federal cavalry, no last-minute hero walking through the door. Just Freddy Heflin, one good ear, a sheriff's badge from a corrupted town, a frightened young cop locked in his holding cell. He walks into Ray's house that night and tells him, quietly, calmly, that he is bringing Murray to the city at 6 a.m. He would like Ray to come with him. Ray looks at Freddy for a long, measuring moment. Okay, 6 it is. But before dawn breaks, Ray's men are already in position. The ambush hits before Freddy reaches the station, guns drawn in the dark streets of the same town Freddy has walked for a decade. The same streets where he'd guided traffic, stopped fender benders, saved a turtle named Ollie. A gun fires inches from his good ear, and Freddy Heflin goes completely deaf. The world collapses into silence. He does not stop. He moves through Garrison like a man who has finally, completely run out of things to lose, block by block, door by door, absorbing everything the town throws at him and pushing forward anyway. The corrupt officers who spent 10 years mocking him, sidelining him, treating him like a mascot, are now realizing, with creeping horror, that they fundamentally misread the man in front of them. They pushed the quiet one. They should have pushed literally anyone else. The confrontation with Ray is not a Hollywood duel. It is something far more painful, a man walking through the wreckage of the life he was sold, the town Ray built, the family Ray offered, the identity Ray gave him, and can now take away. When it ends, Ray Donlin is finished, and Garrison comes down with him. Months later, the news pieces it together in fragments. Gary Figgis cuts a plea deal and gives up everything. The mob connection, the dirty loans, the drug money running through the 3-7. Toy Torillo is indicted on 4 counts of racketeering. A corrections officer is arrested for the murder of Officer Glenn Tunney, killed in his jail cell 3 years earlier for being willing to tell the truth. Murray Superboy Babbage, the cop who supposedly jumped off the George Washington Bridge, sits alive in a holding cell. Sheriff Fred Heflin apprehended him, alone. The final newsline is almost unbearable in how understated it is. He will be recovering the hearing in his good ear, so that's good news. No promotion, no badge from the NYPD, no parade. Just a quiet man who, when every institution abandoned him, decided to be the institution himself. Gary Figgis told him, "Being right is not a bulletproof vest, Freddy." He wasn't wrong. But sometimes being right and refusing to sit down is the only weapon that actually matters. That is Copland, a film about the most dangerous kind of man, the one everyone ignored until he decided to stop being ignored. Now, right now, before you click away, there's a bartender in Brooklyn who finds a dying pit bull puppy stuffed inside a trash can on a freezing winter night. He brings it home, nurses it to life, meets a woman, feels something close to peace for the first time in years. Then the man who threw that dog away shows up at his door and says he wants it back. What this bartender does next is not what you expect from a quiet man who tends bar and keeps his head down, because quiet men in these stories are always hiding the most. The next video is already waiting. Click it before you figure out what Bob Saganowski is really capable of, because the reveal lands harder if you don't see it coming.